Hello Manchester United fans, welcome back to Real Reds Talk and welcome to 18 years of neglect. Today we're going to reflect on the 18 years that the parasites, that they also call the Glazers, have been in charge of Manchester United, and we're going to reflect on what has been a fucking awful time at the club. After taking constant shit after shit after shit after shit, the toilet is now blocked, which is ironic because the toilets are actually blocked at Old Trafford, but it certainly seems like the Glazers are backed into a corner at the minute. The club is in debt. We're losing our status by the second. We're handling business off the pitch really, really bad. We can't sell or buy players effectively. The academy has dried up with talent. We've had drama after drama after drama at the club. Other clubs around us are starting to pull ahead as well, and the infrastructure is in bits. But the question is, how did we get to this point? Let's travel back in time when the Glazers first took over the club and remind ourselves of times when we was actually winning things before they'd taken over. And yes, we still managed to win certain things whilst he was there, but after Fergie left, things got darker and darker. So let's have a recap and let's go back through it together. So the first initial takeover, how did it happen? How did the Glazers come to power? What stakes were bought? All that kind of information. I'm going to go through it right now. So Malcolm Glazer bought a stake in the club in September 2003. By the end of 2003, he had increased his shareholding from 3% to around 15%, which he almost doubled in the year up to October 2004. His acquisition of John Magnier and JP McManus, or McManus, I don't know his name, something along the lines of that. Their 28% stake was bought in May 2005, which pushed Malcolm Glazers up to around 57%, well over the 30% threshold that would force him to launch a takeover bid. A few days later, he took control of the 75% of the club's shares, allowing him to delist the company from the London Stock Exchange, and within a month, the Glazers took 98% ownership of the club via their Red Football parent company, forcing a squeeze out of the remaining 2%. The final purchase of the club almost totaled at £800 million, which of course they didn't buy themselves. Most of the capital used by the Glazers to purchase United came in the form of loans, the majority of which was secured against the club's assets, incurring interest payments of over £60 million per year. The remainder came in the form of PIK loans, which are later sold to hedge funds. A lot of Manchester United fans opposed the takeover when they heard about the Glazers, particularly once they realised the level of debt that they would have to take on after being debt-free for so many years. Some went as far to launch their own football club. You had FC United in 2005, which entered the North West Counties Football League. And they also played in the National League North from, I think it was like 2015 to 2019. Since 2005, the Manchester United Supporters Trust has been working a way of returning ownership of the club to supporters. In 2010, they met with a group of wealthy Manchester United fans called the Red Knights, I think we all remember that, to discuss a £1 billion takeover bid. And guess what? The bid fell through. Why did it fall through? Because the Glazers' valuation of the club wasn't met. No surprise, it's like fucking deja vu all over again, innit? So that's the kind of first introduction to the Glazers. You could already see this kind of black cloud forming over Old Trafford with all the debts and the interest payments and all this kind of stuff. And they didn't even really buy it with their own money. This was all kind of taken from our assets, effectively, which is why we're so against them. So that was just the start of the journey. But how did Fergie do under the Glazers? What did he win? What were the transfer windows like? Let's dive into that. So yeah, after the Glazers taken over in 2005, at the time of the takeover, Sir Alex Ferguson was still in charge, well underway, winning multiple leagues before that, Champions Leagues, etc. Super successful, and even under the Glazer regime, Fergie still won 5 Premier League titles, 2006, 7, 8, 10, and 2012 to 13 in the transfer window where Van Persie came in. He won 3 League Cups, 2005, 8 and 9, and won the Champions League, of course, in Moscow in 2008. But context is obviously important in this situation. Manchester United was already a well-oiled club before the Glazers got their greasy mitts on it. Fergie had to build a dynasty and had numerous successful squads throughout the years. If you look at the transfer windows under the Glazers and their spend for the type of money United generate, wasn't great. Some of them were good, don't get me wrong. It weren't all doom and gloom. Some of them really good. Some of them really, really bad. And one in particular, which I want to get into. But 2005, you look at the players that came in. Vidic, Evra, Ji-Sung Park and Van der Sar came in for really good prices, which, in hindsight, worked out really well. Obviously, Vidic and Evra and players like that didn't have the best start to the season. But all of them players were really important at some point in their career. Outgoings, you had Phil Neville and Cleberson leave. So that, as a start, not too bad. 2006, you had Carrick come in, who was a great signing, and then Henrik Larsson on loan, but you had Van Nistelrooy leave the club, I think, for like £15 million to Real Madrid, which wasn't great. 2007, which was probably the best transfer window whilst Fergie was there under the Glazers, you brought in Anderson, Nane, Hargreaves and Tevez on loan, which were all great signings in their own respect. Outgoings, you had Gabriel Hines, or Hinze, whatever his name is, Giuseppe Rossi and Alan Smith leave. 2008, you had Berbatov and Tosic come in. You had PK and Chris Eagles go out, so not many incomings, not many outgoings. 2009 is the one where it gets dicey. So we sold Cristiano Ronaldo for a record fee, Ballon d'Or winner, just won the Champions League with us, our greatest player, one of our greatest players ever. And who did we replace him with? Valencia came in from Wigan, Obertan, and Michael Owen, like a 30-odd-year-old Michael Owen, who had his moments, but come on, it's Michael Owen, way past his prime, injury-prone, etc. Awful transfer window. 2010, Bebe, Chris Smalling, Chicharito, Tosic, Foster, Makeda leaves. 2011, De Gea, Phil Jones, Ashley Young, John O'Shea and Obertan leave. 2012, not bad. Van Persie, Kagawa, Zaha, but Berbatov and Park Ji-sung left the club. So like I said, there was a couple of decent windows. But when you come in, you want to make a giant impact. I don't believe they did that in the first transfer window. And then there's about 12 or 13 after that, which I definitely want to touch on. But just for the one specifically under Sir Alex Ferguson, excuse me, bloody hell. He still won underneath this regime, underneath everything that was going on. The loans he was taking out, it's a genius in it, Sir Alex Ferguson. But the total spend under Fergie was £336 million. Okay? In sales, we made £188 million. So the total spend was £148 million in 7 years. At the time, I had a look at the financials, and we generated about £300 million a year at that point, which equals to £2.1 billion in total over the 7 years that Fergie was working under the Glazers. So, obviously, financial, when you dive into the deep roots of that, you could see certain money was being taken, certain money wasn't being spent. They backed Fergie in certain elements, but then certain transfer windows like the Ronaldo one, you let him go for like, £90 million or £80 million, and then you bring in Obertan and Michael Owen and Valencia, and we still win stuff. So could you imagine if that was, nearer to today now, not even necessarily Eric Ten Hag, but the managers before him, if you would have done that to Ole, you would have sold, I don't know, who was our best player at the time under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Marcus Rashford, let's say, for example. I know he had a poor season in the second one, but he was good in the first couple. Imagine selling him, we're selling for, I don't know, 75 million to PSG, and then they bring in 3 shit players. He'd be gone instantly, but because it was Fergie, He could keep himself afloat. He knew how to manage the squad. He knew to improve certain players. So, yeah, like I said, he did it despite him. So, after Sir Alex Ferguson left after the 2012-13 season, not only did he leave, but Manchester United announced that David Gill would leave his post as chief executive in the summer of 2013, but that he would remain on the board as a director. He was replaced by the one and only executive vice chairman, Ed Woodward, or as I like to call him, Dead Woodward. He only managed to sign one player in the summer of 2013, Marouane Fellaini from Everton. That was on transfer deadline day as well, when we had been previously offered to sign him for cheaper earlier on in the summer. But no, didn't go for that. Forget about Toni Kroos, forget about Fabregas, forget about Thiago. Fellaini is the one we're going to get. Now, 9 years on from when Woodward was there and over £1 billion spent on transfers, the club only won a Europa League, an FA Cup, and obviously during his time here, it's been longer than 9 years, but Ed Woodward's time at the club. Over £1 billion spent on transfers. The club only won a Europa League, an FA Cup and a League Cup. They didn't win a single Premier League during Woodward's time, and there was multiple times when Woodward was target of fans' aggression, including myself, obviously not going to his house and things like that, but the fans hated him. It's simple as that. We started to gain a reputation for overpaying for players, not signing the right players at the right time, only signing players for commercial reasons and their brand and the kind of payments that they're going to be taking. And Woodward was to blame for many quarters in this. It's as simple as that. For me, looking back at his tenure, there was 5 big situations which wasn't great. The Fellaini one, which I've just touched on, as the only signing for David Moyes, who's just taken over the greatest manager ever, who's just won the league, and you just go signing Fellaini. It's like you're scratching and thinking, fucking hell, man, he needs a bit more recruitment than that. For 4 years, we needed a defensive midfielder when Pogba, McTominay, Herrera, Matic, these guys were here. We needed a DM. Matic was aging, he had biscuit legs, and we were so desperate for one, and that never got identified as a weakness and never got filled. Obviously, we got Casemiro now, so it's slightly different. The failing to back Jose Mourinho after finishing second, there was centre-backs that he wanted, there was certain players he wanted to bring in, just never got backed, and I remember him moaning about that in pre-season. He wanted to get rid of Martial as well. Prematurely handing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a contract for a manager bounce, and then breaking the bank to sign Harry Maguire, which was just arguably one of the most stupidest deals in Premier League history, if not the worst. The Glazers left this man running the asylum because he was making them money commercially. He was bringing in certain sponsorship deals and brand deals that was just, filling their pockets. So they left this man in charge, even though the recruitment for 10 years was horrendous. So that's another failing, in another feather in their cap. Or what's the opposite to feather in the cap? Whatever the opposite to that is, that's what it was. Appalling. Ed Woodward, Dead Woodward, shit. So, you have to bear with me in this section, because I've got a timeline, a financial timeline of how many times the Glazers have milked this club dry. So please do stick with me. There's a lot of information in this bit, but I'm going to go from 2010 to now to what they have taken out. So again, a lot of work's gone into it, but just listen, just stick with me. 2010, the anti-Glazers green and gold campaign begins. In the same year, it emerges that the club's debt has hit 716.5 million and that the Glazer family have taken out 10 million of the club in management and administration fees and personally borrowed a further 10 million in the past year. Before the year ends, the Glazers pay off a high-interest hedge fund, £220 million debt occurring 16.2 interest. This follows the raising of 504 million in a bond issue. 2012, United shares start trading on the New York Stock Exchange. The family makes 75 million selling a portion of their shares. 2014, Malcolm Glazer dies. The Glazer family sell a further 12 million shares for $17 each, making another $200 million in December. One of the Glazer brothers, Edward, announced the sale of 3 million of his shares. Amid fan anger, the Glazers rule out selling Manchester United for another 5 years. 2015, it emerges that 6 children of Malcolm Glazer who own United will be paid more than 15 million every year from the club after an announcement that there will be a dividend to shareholders. 2017, the Glazers holding company Red Football sells 4.3 million shares in United for $17 per share. That is a further 73 million made by the Glazers, $73 million. 2018, The Guardian reports that the Glazers' takeover have drained out of United more than 1 billion in interest, cost, fees and dividends since 2005. That's not it. 2019, the latest dividend paid by the club is revealed to be £23 million, of which the Glazer brothers and their sister Darcy Glazer shared approximately £18 million. 2020, United's net debt increases by 127 million to 429 million in the 12 months to 31st of March 2020, their latest sets of accounts revealed. March 2021, United co-chairman Avram Glazer put shares worth more than £70 million up for sale. Debt is up to 16% to 455 million after 12 months of the pandemic. April 2021, supporters' anger flares over the Glazers' attempt to take the club into the Super League. Fans break into the training ground on the 22nd of April. May 2021, supporters break into Old Trafford amid a protest against the owners, leading their Premier League game against Liverpool being cancelled and to take place at a later date. April 2022, United fans stage another protest against the Glazers, one that involves around 1,000 of them marching to Old Trafford ahead of the visit to Norwich City. The protesters do not enter the game until the 17th minute, one for every year the American family ownership. August 2022, I get it's long, but this is just how much they are taking and milking that cow. Like that, milking a cow dry. August 2022, Old Trafford witnesses another anti-Glazers protest as fans march to the ground ahead of the visit to Liverpool. It's organised and led by the 1958 group, which have also instigated the pre-Norwich protest. November 2022, we all remember this date, the Glazer family announces it's commencing a process to explore strategic alternatives for Manchester United, potentially bringing an end to its 17-year ownership, now 18 years, of the club. The news comes the same day when we announced we're terminating Cristiano Ronaldo's contract. 2023, a million bids later for Qatar, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, an embarrassing transfer window, a mishandling of the Mason Greenwood situation, the Anthony ongoing situation at the minute, and a stadium that's still leaking with infrastructure that needs investment. And somehow, these parasites are still at the club. Somehow. I don't understand. just lying there, not giving a fuck about the fans, not giving a fuck about the club, and being able to do it legally is one of the most frustrating things I can think of in the planet. So what lies in the future for Manchester United? Will these owners stay? Will they eventually go? What's Ten Hag going to do? Other clubs are getting better around us. The Glazers are demanding more because of the new revenue streams. I think given that everything that happened in Ten Hag's first season, just focusing on the manager for a moment, using Weghorst up top, Cristiano Ronaldo dramatically leaving, the Glazer announcement, the ongoing Greenwood situation, and the Maguire captaincy situation, getting third and a trophy with all that going on is pretty fucking good. And he cannot continue to dance on this moving carpet that is the Glazers, that's just deciding to do whatever the fuck they want with the club. Plenty of talented managers have come and gone working under this regime, and he will be swallowed up by the exact same regime that Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho. And obviously they went for certain reasons. It got really dark under Jose Mourinho. Van Gaal didn't necessarily play that, an attractive style of brand. Still won an FA Cup. Nearly got fourth and they sacked him. And there seems to be this kind of syndrome with... We get to a second season or a third season, and because we're in the Champions League, it's like, right, you can drop off now. Don't worry about the transfer market. It can still be hectic, and we'll still be fishing around for last-minute deals. I think we signed 3 players, didn't we? 3 or 4 players on the last day. Some were forced because of left-back. Some were just, incompetence. And when you look at other clubs around us that are improving, Newcastle have a huge financial backing. Man City have world-class talents left with years in the tank. Arsenal are getting stronger and stronger. Liverpool will always be there or thereabouts competing. Chelsea have invested £1 billion since Todd Boehly have taken over. Not to mention clubs like Brighton or Aston Villa, who are building blocks and are really, really efficient when it comes to running a club, especially more than us. Unfortunately for us as fans, it seems like it's going to be dragging on for another at least 6 months to a year, which means we keep falling behind. The stadium won't change, the training facilities won't improve, and we stay as a reactionary club rather than a proactive club. It's simple. In order for Manchester United to be a global success again, these owners need to leave. That's not new news. Everybody knows this. And we need competent, wealthy owners who can back Erik ten Hag and work hard on things on and off the pitch. Also, a restructuring of the board, because them guys have been abysmal as well. Murtaugh, Richard Arnold, pants, mate, during this window. I was bigging him up as well at the start of the window. I was saying, Onana, great deal. Mount, obviously, Ten Hag wanted him as a priority. He got him in, so he's backing the manager. Then outgoings, the Maguire situation. Donny's still here somehow. I don't know. I think Eric Bayer's only just left. Only getting £5 million for Fred when you look into the intricacies of the financials. The Amrabat deal. Just messy dealings in the transfer market. And this has been the case. I heard Sky Cave saying on Sky, funnily enough, saying that United, they don't usually have the scattergun approach and last-minute deals. Look at every single window. Most of them have a panic buy in there and a reactionary buy. Last season, it was Rabiot and Arnautovic. We got Casemiro and Antony. This year, it's we're going for Reguilon, Amrabat on the last day of the window. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. So will we ever get our moment? When it comes to Glazer selling the club, if they do, when they do, will we get our moment? Time will tell. One thing is for sure, we can all, I think when it does happen, or if it does happen, we can have one giant party, because I think 18 years of build-up, I mentioned the toilet analogy before, shit after shit after shit after shit, and the bog is just filled up with piles of poo at the minute. It's as simple as that. You get rid of that, you flush it all, the Glazers go away, it's time for a new start. You can have a poo in peace, if you will. I appreciate it's a bit of a grueling analogy, but you take my point. But yeah, look, If it does happen, there'll be one huge party. I said myself, I'll be outside Old Trafford with a bottle of fucking champagne. I believe if they do go, we can start winning trophies again, creating stars, signing exciting players, playing attractive football, which we do to a certain extent. But imagine if we would have got De Jong in. Imagine if we would have brought Kim Min-jae in. Imagine if we would have brought Harry Kane in. Where will we be now? First choice players that Erik ten Hag wanted, not getting them, having to go to different players. And maybe Højlund will work out. The centre-back situation is still the same. Varane's injured. Maguire's still there or thereabouts. Lindelof, you need to back him to the full extent. Pep gets that with Man City, and look how successful he's been. I believe if Erik ten Hag had the same backing, he would be successful 100%. Because what he did last year, with everything that went on, getting third and winning a trophy with Weghorst up top, he's done really, really well. So we need this in order to move on. We need that toilet unblocking, but we can only dream at the minute. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, because They're selfish, greedy bastards, and they will just wait and wait and wait and wait until they until they hit that valuation. Whether that's 6 billion or 10 billion, no one really knows at the minute, and no one really knows what's going on. Only them 6 siblings know what they're doing. But the one thing I want to leave you with is the best way to describe him. And I've said this before on a video, is imagine we're a carcass on the floor, yeah, and these 6 vultures, Darcy, Kenneth, Avram, whatever their names are, sat on a rock, pecking away at our bodies for who wants the most, who wants the biggest slice of this human, if you will. All of them, and we're there as fans, and they're like, you know, doing this, taking chunks out of us every week, it feels like at the minute, because the drama is just absolutely relentless. But let me know what you guys think. That's the most important thing. Do you think they will eventually leave? Give us a date. Give us a prediction in the comments when you think they're going to leave. What has been the worst memory, in your personal opinion, from their time here in charge? How will you celebrate if they do eventually go? Leave a comment on the video, smash a like on the video if you can as well, and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. We're going to be dropping more videos like this, as well as live reviews, pre-records, watch-alongs, interactive stuff. Loads of stuff on this channel, so stay locked in. Hit that subscribe button in the bottom right corner of your screen. Drop us a follow on socials, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a lovely day.